I mean, we want to really obviously become the Alibaba plus plus of apparel industry, where we are going very deep into the one vertical so that all kinds of transactions can happen here. But I think most importantly, we want to make supply chain, democratize the supply chain. So if you're a small brand or a large brand, you should be able to access the same level of supply chain that is accessible to any large brand in the world.
Welcome everyone to Startup Duniya, brought to you by SMEVenture. There's a well-said code: the best startups generally come from somebody needing to scratch an itch. And in India, we have many such talented startups who have proved the code. From having a startup ecosystem grew immensely in past decade, our startup ecosystem has grown a lot. Bringing you such amazing stories of startups from founder is Startup Duniya. This is Yasmeen Khan, your host, and I am truly delighted to welcome serial entrepreneurs, passionate young leaders, and amazing, inspiring, successful businessman, Mr. Pawan Gupta and Mr. Abhishek Sharma to Startup Dunya. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yasmin, for having us.
Yeah, Mr. Gupta and Mr. Sharma are graduates of IIT Delhi and founders of Fashinza, a B2B new age product development and product management platform that enables fashion brands and manufacturers to produce better together. Today, we'll try to get some business mantras and insights from successfully established entrepreneurs like you. I hope you are excited too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So let's start. So firstly, I would like to ask both of you, starting with Mr. Pawan, like tell us about your journey of being founders of Fashinza.
Yeah. So Fashinza as a startup is still a pretty young startup. We started about a year back. So we started, actually in 2019, Abhishek and I, when we used to work together at Curofy, which is the previous startup that we did. Uh, so in 2019, Abhishek came from a very fashion e-commerce background where he saw a lot of new brands coming up. A lot of people around us had also started coming up. They started their new brands. They started selling online and were really growing very fast. So Abhishek's one of the ideas was to really start a bunch of brands, not just one, and maybe start scaling them online. And while I came from a very manufacturing family, so after previous startup, I went spent a lot of time at home. My father spent almost 30 years in this industry, so that is where we sort of like got together, started chatting, and we realized that nobody had actually solved the supply chain for these fashion brands, especially the new age fashion brands. And that's where we believe that we could probably do a lot better and do a lot better service and actually help those brands scale up. So, I mean, not just sell online, but also help them compete with the largest retailers of the world. And at the same time, on supply side, we have so many SMEs in India, so many small to mid-sized manufacturers who do pretty good quality stuff, but it's just that so they're small, they don't have the resources. So for them to access the demand across the world is a very difficult task. So there we thought that maybe with a very good technology layer, something which goes beyond just Alibaba's listing or IndiaMart's listing could actually help these SMEs reach the entire global demand. So that's how sort of the journey started for us. We Fashinza started coming into existence towards end of 2019. In early 2020, in February, we launched it officially, and I think it was so we were lucky to have raised the funds from Axel and Elevation Capital just before the lockdown. I think the lockdown, everything stopped. Yeah, it only opened. So the business really opened in June when the actual operation started. And from June to February now, we've scaled up pretty well.
Okay. So, Mr. Abhishek Sharma, would you like to add some your sides from this year?
One thing definitely I would like to add. So when we and Pawan was discussing about, and we actually focus more toward the SME industry and the industry, like we were exploring other industries also. We made a trip to Jaipur, which is very close to my hometown. I'm basing from Rajasthan, so we both made a trip to Jaipur, which did a couple of factories there, and we were quite surprised the kind of work the Indian manufacturing SMEs units are doing it, and the kind of potential opportunity to work and help them to using a technology. So that's really a key point. Like actually, when we decided that the Indian apparel industry, we should definitely work for that and build something around that. And very interestingly, we found that like most of the laborers, most of the employees are women. So it's like a women empowered industry, one of the largest industry of India. So we really thought like, I think if we make something around this industry, it will be a good impact for nation as well. So that's how we started Fashion. I think it's again a great journey. Last couple of months we have seen it together.
Yeah, fabulous, fabulous. It was nice hearing you. And now, asking you only, now you can just tell us about Fashinza, the launch here properly, the location, the branches, your, products, and also your vision and mission of Fashinza, Mr.
Yeah,
Abhishek.
sure. Sure. So the idea is basically, so we launched in Feb 2020, as Pawan mentioned. So we raised a fund also from the two biggest investor in India. One is a SAP partner, Excel partner, and we were lucky onto that. And when we started, I think the idea was to build a B2B marketplace platform. At one end, we'll be having a network of factories, the garment manufacturer. At the other hand, we have a brands, and for that brands will do the contract manufacturing done. In the simple, the vision is basically democratize the complete apparel supply chain, the contract manufacturing for fashion brands, and help both in terms of brands as well as the supplier in building a trust, building a transparency, and giving a visibility using a software. So that's a clear idea. And as Pawan mentioned, idea is just not to build a listing platform, go beyond Alibaba, what Alibaba did and what India Mart did it, and how to help those suppliers, how to help those brands to do it, do the manufacturing done efficiently. When I say efficiently, I think the quality delivery and the on-time delivery is something which we are focusing upon. At the same time, we want to help our Indian manufacturers to grow and build their visibility and connect with the global brands, help them to scale and give the consistent demand on that. So that's how we are building, and that's our core vision of the company. We are going to direction of that.
Fantastic, fantastic. So now moving onwards to Mr. Pavan, can you just tell us, like you have met many women artisans in India. So how was your experience? What did you realize working with them?
Yeah. I think, like Abhishek said, this is one of the biggest women employment sectors in India.
Hmm.
And most of the factories that we work with are either owned or co-owned by the women, and not just
Hmm.
owned, they're actually women entrepreneurs running those factories. Most of the employees in those factories are women, the artisans are women. So it's a
Hmm.
lovely experience for us, especially in India, where women employment is still not at the levels that we would like it to be, and it's still pretty low. So to
Hmm.
provide those women a source of earning, some of these women are like the sole bread earners of their households. So it's just a really amazing feeling. And I think like for a global audience, the brands as well, they also like the fact that these women are getting employment because of the work that they are doing, because of the clothes that they are getting manufactured, and their customers also like that fact. I think like it has been a really amazing experience where we are building something which is not just about solving for transactions. We're actually
Hmm.
bringing some social impact to the lives of the underprivileged in the country.
Correct, correct. And it's a very, amazing work you are doing because it is said in Marathi that mulgi shikli pragati zali. That is like one woman learn something, she can just go beyond the boundaries. And you are one who are helping to do that. So I hope
Thank
your
you.
work may go beyond your boundaries also. Now moving towards my next question for Mr. Sharma, Abhishek Sharma. Can you just tell me, like your startup is funded by seed funds, as you told. So can you give us the insights, like how to get funding for startups, and what is the process? What are the do's, don'ts while approaching for funds? What are the tips you can give for our upcoming startups?
Sure. I think so. Before I think answering your question, let us give also our story and why we are lucky or fortunate
Hmm.
enough to get a funding. So I think one of the reason is basically both have a immense experience in startups, maybe running our own startups or working with the startups in previous. That's really helped us to uh, understand the process of running a startup and building a companies, and the scale of 0 to 1 and 1 to n. We have
Hmm.
seen it multiple times in past. So that's really helped us. So I think the one biggest thing for one biggest advice for everyone here at the audience is basically uh, always look for a big problem where you can actually solve it meaningfully and make it impact. and then plan for a long term. So you might get a fund on day one, you might get a fund on after a couple of years, but you should be stick to the problem and then work towards the solving for that right problem which you have chosen it, and then work towards the work towards to getting it solved in the right manner. And until unless it's not excites you, it doesn't matter. I think you'll not be able to do it and solve it fully. So whatever the problem is excites you, just go for it and solve it. And the one very critical thing is basically build your right team, including your founder. So that's one of the things I think we have chosen. I think we and Pawan almost had known each other for almost like a 13 years. So like an initial team which we hired is primarily person who already worked with us in past, or we have some kind of engagement with them in past. So always go for a great team, more both in terms of bonding, both in terms of your synchronization, and then choose the right problem to go for it. And I think that's the success mantra for fundraising. Yeah.
Great, great. Thank you so much for this insight. I hope my audience have got the insights of how to go for the funding, and we get more startups like you people.
Sure.
So moving forward to Mr. Pawan, can you just tell us like what difficulties you have faced while reaching to 50 plus brands and 250 plus manufacturers in 4 countries? Like it's a huge, in such a short time, reaching to this much brands and manufacturers is not easy. We know that. So can you just tell us what difficulties you have faced?
Yeah, I think especially the biggest difficulty that we have been facing is just the restrictions which came with past part of the post-COVID world. So I mean, like you have lockdown sometime, you are not able to travel, you're not able to visit the
Yeah.
clients, you have to cancel all these things.
Hmm.
That has been the biggest difficulty for us, and that's actually the reason that we have been those 4 countries are where we are stuck right now. But we're still trying to aggressively expand. But it's just difficult in this post-COVID world. I think a lot of the times these manufacturers go out of the business just because of the conditions there. Uh, in Europe, in the US, Europe is still under lockdown. So a lot of the countries are there lockdown. So that is a continuous challenge we are still facing there. But I think as and when the countries are opening up, as and when people are more going out, we're seeing more demand and more supply opening up. But I think just that fact, so we haven't faced a lot of trouble convincing them for a new age solution. That I think has been really amazing, the pickup there. I think it's just the part in working in a post-COVID world where people are also really figuring out when things will open up, when they should go back to work, etc.
True, true. So I hope we all come out with all this. Like this online interview is also one of this our like we media
I
people
know.
go for camera things and all. Now we are online, so this is also one of the thing. I hope ki jaldi se everything get fine. So now moving towards both of you, on the occasion of Women's Day, a special question for both of you. Like, what women inspires you and why? So starting with Mr. Pawan.
That's a very nice question, actually. I think so. Multiple women. I think it's very difficult to choose one.
Hmm.
I think in India, I really believe essentially the women, for example, like Indra Nooyi. I mean, she
Okay.
really opened up a lot of platforms for
Hmm.
Indian women to really think global, go out and beyond, and she gave. And she was not even like, so she's a pure Indian, like pure Indian as in like she was born in India, brought up in India, she studied in India, and then went on to become the global CEO.
Hmm.
And that is what has given a lot of confidence to all the women in the country. And I've seen around me, I've seen my sister, my wife, and they take a lot of inspiration from her. Just the fact that she is so relatable. She got studied in India, did her MBA in India, and then worked her way, made her way to the top. And that has, I think, like she really inspires me as well. That it's just possible for Indians to become global leaders.
Okay. And now, Mr. Sharma, can you add like what women
Sure.
inspire
So I
you?
think, yeah, one interesting fact I would like to share, and I think we see that women employment and empowerment is the core pillar for our venture and the fashion industry itself.
Hmm.
And we prefer when we actually work with that, we prefer the manufacturers who has one of the owner or single owner is a female, and that's interesting fact. We actually saw it generally with the female or women owner, we found that the factories are much structured and much organized compared to the male owners. And I think
Okay.
it's lots of processes which are very much sorted. So that's, I think, in general is true for women. And in our industry, it's actually it's helping us a lot to figure out people where actually women are in a decision maker or actively involved in the supply in the manufacturing side.
Mhm. Okay, so like the basic thing we can say is our home only. When our mom take decision, everything become very clear. So obviously, when women take decision, I think so. This is what is going to happen. So yeah, moving forward, Mr. Abhishek, how do you see the future of fashion industry after this COVID? How do you see the future?
I think so. What we believe, I think the apparel exports, we are the supply first market, and there's an infinite demand for the reliable supply. So most of the focus we put of building a right supplier capability, and increasing the capacity. So and post COVID, I think lots of things are happening on on using technology. So digitization
Right.
of the supply chain, where we are actually putting a lots of effort, and we are
Hmm.
building lots of technology. Everything, the process, we are thinking that how we can optimize or improve upon the using a technology. So
Hmm.
in that way, we are helping SMEs to work towards the digitization, as well as the working towards the reliable supply. So at the
Hmm.
same time, we are focusing more towards the bringing more demand to the strength of India, which is primarily the value addition like handwork, embroidery, where
Hmm.
actually we can compete with the other global markets. So I think these are the couple of things which we are doing it, and that's how we see the future. I think in future we also want to support our suppliers more towards the working capital support, as well as the raw material supply chain support, like fabric supply chain and print supply chain. We are actually planning to enter on this market
Okay.
also. Again, his
Hmm.
idea is how we can improve the efficiencies of suppliers, which are the primarily SMEs for us. So that's a couple of things which we want to have it in future
Okay.
for our.
Great, great, and I hope all your future plans may come true as soon as possible. Uh, Mr. Pawan, I would like to ask you, like, is this pandemic a boom to your industry? Like, what real changes have you noticed?
Right. I think on a overall macro level, industry obviously has been hurt, and I think primarily because people are going out less, they are buying less, they're not
Right.
going out shopping, etc. So on a macro level, yes, it has been hurt. A lot of manufacturers have shut down, a lot of brands have shut down. But I think it has also been a wake-up call for the way fashion industry works and the way it used to work in a very wasteful manner. Essentially, just and people were trying to predict what would happen 18 months down the line in an ever changing socially connected world. I think the way the industry works is going to change, and I think long term this will be a pretty big boom for the industry. And I think
Hmm.
especially during the lockdown, a lot of talk was around the sustainability and the wastage in this industry. And now people are really waking up and looking at how they are doing how they are doing the business. uh, I mean, like, for example, like brands like H&M, Zara, thinking, why are they wasting billions of dollars of garments every year? Why are they just like throwing them away? And I think that is the practices which were really unsustainable are really going to change now. The way we manufacture goods is going to change now. And I think especially if you see more people are buying online now, more
Right.
and more fashion brands are going online. So I think we are going to see a more niche categories coming in, less mass
Hmm.
produced stuff, more niche produced stuff. Essentially, for example, like, why do we still have just a small, medium, large, and then you have 50 brands all doing the same sizes, same kind of design, same kind of fabrics? I mean,
Hmm.
like, you have so many variety. If you just talk about India, I mean, there are
Hmm.
like so many body shapes, so many different complexions, so many different kinds of choices, but still you have all those brands just producing the same stuff, and they're producing like a million t-shirts of every one design and then selling them in a mass produced way. I think that is really going to change. And the
Yeah.
way new entrepreneurs, new brands would come up, create something really important, really specific for the needs of their own segment, which could be pretty small. Like, it need not
Hmm.
be you don't need to build a billion-dollar brand again. And I think that is going to come up, and which is really important, empowering for the new brands, the SMEs, as well as will make the industry much less wasteful, much more sustainable.
Correct, absolutely. You know, new trends like new normal, everything we can call it as a new normal nowadays. People selling on WhatsApp status, you know, brand
Oh yeah,
yeah. So this is also a new normal, and everything you have added is absolutely true.
right.
Moving forward to Mr. Abhishek Sharma, I would like to ask you, how did the name came, Fashinza? Like, what is the backside? How is the name Fashinza?
Sorry, I think you should ask. I think Pawan can tell better, but I think let me also tell it. So I think very
We'll
interestingly,
take his
I think
side also.
yeah, so we finalized this name, or we actually came up with this name in 5 minutes time period only. We were
Five
sitting,
minutes.
in a one meeting with one of the investors in India, and
Hmm.
we were actually very early stage, idea stage only, and the investor asked that, do you have a website or name? And I think just before that we finalized that this name, and the name idea of the name is basically have something related to fashion. So that's how the
Hmm.
fashion word came. And I think
Now,
I should reveal that I think Pawan generally has the all the Twitter handles of his wife is on something like Travelinja, Foodinja. So he had that also as a suffix there. So the fashion
okay.
and the inja suffix will come. So that's
Okay. Okay.
I
but
think
I
in
think
my
So,
idea
Pawan,
is
defense,
yeah.
I mean, I've obviously, I mean, I've already like the young vibe to it, like Inza, but I knew that the domain would be available.
It's a very interesting story, you know, quick 5 minute stories of fashions.
Yeah, yeah, I
it was
know. I
So,
know. We thought that, I mean, if we tell the investor that we are still figuring out the name, they would think that we
name.
are too early.
Yeah. And you in 5 minutes it is amazing, you know, getting the name of fashions from Twitter like thing. Now I would like to ask both of you, anyone can start. Who is your inspiration in life? In general, I would like to know, like, who is your inspiration for any work you do? So, Mr. Pavan, starting with you.
Hmm. I think uh, it's very difficult to really say. I haven't really ever believed in having one inspiration. I have like multiple inspirations,
Oh, okay.
and one inspiration for the ambition, one inspiration for the way you run the business, one inspiration to way you communicate the business. I think
Hmm.
these are very different things. But if you were to, let's say, ask me to pick one person, I think so. My one of my inspirations is Jeff Bezos, and just because of the sheer scale of ambition he has. I think the way he has created Amazon to be not just a business, but like a factory of businesses. They keep on churning out new businesses. And that's why obviously they've ended up building some, probably one of the most valuable companies in the world. And
Hmm.
just the way they conduct their business, that the way they keep their customers at the top. And I think that's a very amazing philosophy, and it's shown that you don't need to have like completely new innovative products to actually prove something. You can build a great distribution, build a very strong technology, and keep your customers on top. Like that will keep you growing for like 20 years. I think like multi-trillion dollar industry now, a
Yeah.
company now, and still they're growing just because they keep their customers first.
Okay. And Mr. Sharma, who is your
So I think,
inspiration?
yeah, I think for me also it's like for a couple of things or couple of parameters, like couple of aspects. I have a different people who are inspiring me. So for vision things, I really get inspired from Elon Musk, and the reason is basically the kind of thought process he has, it the kind of uh, the kind of innovative ideas he do it, which is seems to be quite impossible when he's actually execute and done it. I think it's really make more comfort on that that I think is possible. So I think for vision, I really inspired from Elon Musk. For execution, again, it's a Jeff Bezos. It's primarily the reason is basically the kind of so he actually built the one growth model around the customer centricity for the Amazon. So he actually focused more in terms of selection, pricing, and then customer convenience, and all this revolves around this wheel which he actually built around that. And he put everything on top of that. Everything on top, he put the customer as a first organization, and this
Mhm.
he actually has a great execution capability. Because of that, this company has actually became so big. And third aspect is more towards the design, and definitely everyone get inspired from Apple. So Steve Jobs is the one of the person which actually really inspires me a lot when I think of a design anything. So anything which comes from a design perspective, I see the what kind of first product Apple has launched and now what has become so far. So that's these three profiles, these three people really inspires me a lot.
Great, great. Mr. Pawan, I would like to know where do you see Fashinza in next 5 years?
Next 5 years. I think it's a very long time for a startup like us that young. But I think if you were to, so on a macro level, I think fashions are really, we want to make it within 5 years a much more global company, like a truly global company where the brands and suppliers from across the world are coming and doing business. And I think this is the real vision that we have. I mean, we want to really obviously become the Alibaba plus plus of apparel industry, where we are going very deep into the one vertical so that all kinds of transactions can happen here. But I think most importantly, we want to make supply chain, democratize the supply chain. So if you're a small brand or a large brand, you should be able to access the same level of supply chain that is accessible to any large brand in the world. And I think that is what we are truly democratizing for our brands. So if you're a brand based out of New York, you're just starting up, you don't have a lot of money, still you should be able to compete with the largest retailers of the world. That is what we are trying to build.
Okay, great. And I hope all this, your future plans, again, wishing you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So, lastly, asking you in the context of entrepreneurship, what message you want to convey to all the startups, to all the young entrepreneurs out there in India and the world? So, starting with Mr. Sharma, what is your message?
Well, I think so. I think again, coming back to the same things, I think just figure out the right problem statement and then build a right team. I think and put your effort and plan for a long term. I think startup is a long term aspect. You shouldn't think of like a 2 years, 3 years plan. I think it takes a 10 year, and I think like people like Flipkart also take some time to build an impactful business in India. So I think it's a 10 year kind of horizon or 10 year kind of journey you should think, and rather than looking for short term if you want to create a impactful business. So I think that's one message for everyone actually when we are thinking to start. I think for a long term and go for a right team, including your founder also.
Okay. And Mr. Pawan?
Yeah, I think for founders in India, I would really push them to think more global, be much more ambitious. I think India definitely is a large market. I don't deny that, but I think that should not act as a deterrent in thinking bigger. And I think I see a lot with these with founders in India, which probably start working on an idea and then they see, okay, in India there are so many people which can use it. I can build for that. But I would really push them to see and look at the world. Like India is one country. There are 200 countries in the world, and you have even in India. Like just see how many global products that we use, starting from Facebook, Twitter, to the webinar we are doing on.
Yeah.
So I think like for Indian founders, just don't think that, okay, you want to build Zoom for India, you want to build Facebook for India. How can we actually go and replace Facebook? Like we are building world-class products. Just be much more ambitious. And I think that is what I obviously see lacking in India. And I think that is what I would really push any founder to actually go for and build. It's a much larger market out there.
Hmm. And I think so. People like you, Mr. Sharma, Mr. Gupta, will make a change. And this is the
I hope
start.
so. We hope
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it was great having you here. We have a very fantastic time and chat. Hope our audience had got valuable knowledge from this session. So thank you so much, Mr. Pawan and Mr. Abhishek. Hope you also had a good time.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. It was pretty fun.
Yeah. So with this, I would like to just tell our audience that you can watch this interview on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and our website www.smeventure.com. And keep following us for more such contents. And please do like, share, follow SME Venture. I would like to tell our Pawan sir and Abhishek sir, please. You can just tell us how was your experience with SME Venture, Mr. Pawan.
No, it was pretty fun actually. I mean, I really like the kind of questions you asked. Some of
Yeah.
those questions even we had not really gone back and thought about it, but I think it should be pretty amazing. And having something for SMEs and MSMEs, I think that is pretty important, and that is actually one of the biggest reasons I was pretty excited to talk today.
Yeah. And Mr. Sharma?
Absolutely, it was really so fun and really amazed that I think the kind of the questions and the kind of discussion we had it today, and I really like that we touched upon the some of the things which we see it and like for the women empowerment and some of the things we actually want to do it for the India SMEs. I think we touched upon that, and the same time we touched upon the some of the future entrepreneur who can actually planning to do it, some startups who can do it. I think those things we really discuss upon. So I really enjoyed
Yeah.
it. That's perfectly
So,
fine.
yeah, thank you so much. Thanks again. This is Yasmeen Khan. Wishing you all a happy Women's Day. And please stay connected with SME Venture and Fashinza also. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.